Welcome into a fresh week here on Daily Faceoff Live. Tyler Yaremchuk, Carter Hutton with you, streaming live on the DFO YouTube. I already see a couple of interesting askDFO questions popping in there as well. The show, as always, a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Huts, how you doing?
We're here, buddy. We're back at it. It was an exciting weekend. A lot of good games, lots of storylines, and we're getting into it. We're knocking down Thanksgiving's door here in United States. That's usually our timeline, right? I don't know if you like to play off that. I didn't really realize this American Thanksgiving had so much weight until I retired. Like when I was playing, I never even thought about that. You were just playing and you're trying to win, but it's funny being on the other side of it now, the things that we use as landmarks.
Yeah, it is a bit of a benchmark. Steve Peters has done a ton of research into that. He's actually going to join us for our Wednesday segment leading into American Thanksgiving, and he'll give us some of the data, and we'll talk about which teams should be worried as we hit that sort of, artificial deadline benchmark, whatever you want to call it. We have a lot to get to today on the show. Matt Barnaby is going to join us. If you remember back at the start of the season, we did our prop bet fantasy draft. So now that we're 6 weeks into things, we're going to look back on it and see who's regretting what picks and do a little soft leaderboard update of who's in first. And listen, I say that with a big smile on my face because I actually think it might be me, despite how horrifically I'm betting on the year in our daily bets challenge.
Yeah, there's a few picks that I was trying to get Pat to see if he could maybe Photoshop my picks out, a couple of them, edit them for me. But there's a few bad ones, and it is what it is. I think I bet with my heart a little bit too much on some of those picks.
We have trade news, we have signing news, we have suspension news. We'll talk about a bunch of that in Ask DFO, but let's kick things off the same way we kick off every week here by giving out our Man of the Weekend award. And Huts, I'm going to go ahead and go first. I'm heading out to Buffalo, where the Sabres have won back-to-back games. They rolled the Chicago Blackhawks to kick off their weekend on Friday 9-3, and then they stunningly beat the Carolina Hurricanes yesterday 4-1. So 13 goals in 2 games for the Sabres. But Alex Tuch's 5 points kind of stands at the top of the leaderboard for them. Their points percentage is back up to 500. That means they're above both the Rangers and the Leafs, and they're right on the doorstep of getting back into the playoff conversation in the Eastern Conference. And for Alex Tuch, I mean, a pending UFA who's close to a point per game this season, 8 goals on the year now. Every time he has a weekend like this where he's putting up points, those cash register signs are just going off in his head.
Yeah, he is the guy, just because he's a bigger guy that can skate. He moves the puck well. He plays on both sides of the rink. So he is a guy that's going to be sought after. But this is good for Buffalo, too. I think they did this because I took the Hawks to win that game on our daily bets, too. They hammered me on that. But did you see the Sabre beer holder that they came out with, too, that got a lot of press? It was the first game they have it, and they put up 9 goals. So, in Buffalo, they were loving it that night, Ty.
Yeah, if people missed it, it's like a sword that they fill up with beer, which I think is absolutely hilarious. Maybe that'll be like the turning point rallying cry of the fan base, is like they're undefeated or whatever run they go on since they introduced the Sabre beer. But Buffalo hot through the weekend. They got the Penguins up next as well. So again, a great chance for them to kind of keep this heater going this week. Huts, who's your man of the weekend?
I went with the men of the weekend because I'm a little biased. I love the goalies. So Colorado Avalanche goalie duo, Mackenzie Blackwood with a shutout in Nashville. And then on a back-to-back, Scott Wedgwood in Chicago. And this was a great game. Scott Wedgwood with the shutout. So that's 2 games keeping the net clean. And we look at their numbers right now. Scott Wedgwood, 13-1-2. And this was a bit of a question mark coming into the season with Mackenzie Blackwood being out. He had a knee procedure in the summer. Slow to get going. He's back now, playing well as well. He's 3-0-1. This duo has been unbelievable. Arguably, statistically, they are the best goalie duo in the NHL. And that being said, to flip both these goalies to the Colorado Avalanche last year, they gave up Ananen, Georgiev, 2 goalies, Kovalenko. So Georgiev and Kovalenko are both in the KHL. They're gone, not even in the league anymore. And a 2nd, a 5th, and a 6th. And now they have the best goalie duo in the NHL. That is impressive stuff from the Colorado Avalanche. And more importantly for these 2 guys, keeping the net clean for the Avs.
And both locked up through next season as well with that timely Scott Wedgwood extension from a couple of weekends ago. Listen, it's not like the Avs are playing they're playing great hockey in front of them. Colorado was 1 regulation loss on the season. Like, they're a top tier team, but you want to talk about goaltending being the backbone of that strong start. These are 2 games over the weekend where they didn't play particularly well. Like, they beat the Blackhawks 1-0. They beat the Preds 3-0, but the expected goals from those 2 games they had 5 expected goals against. So like they were giving up some amount of quality in these 2 games. And for the goalies to post blank sheets, and especially in a 1-0 game, like I'm never one of those guys who's going to sit there and be like, oh, this team's only winning because of their goaltending, because goalies are a part of the team. And I think, you talk about the trades they made to bring those 2 guys in, like you deserve credit for solidifying your goaltending position. But these were 2 games over the weekend where it's like, man, your goalies didn't just help you. Like they stole you those games.
They did. And if you look at that first period, I watched the whole game last night against the Hawks. That first period, Colorado did not come out to play. Scott Wedgwood was an absolute difference maker. And I kind of thought this would happen for a Blackhawks team who had a tough loss against the Seattle Kraken, and then they got blown out by the Sabres. So they're going to start on time. Colorado's on a back-to-back. But then to answer, that's what good teams do, right? In the second period, they tilted the ice. They took it to them. But because of that goaltending by Scott Wedgwood, you're given the chance to get back into the game and find a way to win it. So it was an impressive start and a great weekend in general. And these are 2 goalies that I honestly think you have to keep an eye on for Team Canada. When we start talking about the depth of the Canadian goaltenders, I think Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood are in the conversation.
I mean, if it was up to me, it's the easiest conversation in the world to have when it comes to Team Canada's goaltending. It's Binnington, because sure, he's the starter from 4 Nations. You give him the job. Then it's Blackwood and Thompson who get the next 2 spots for me. And even if you don't want to take Blackwood, I mean, Wedgwood might be making an interesting case as well. The Colorado Avalanche, 9 straight wins. That is the longest winning streak in the NHL right now. They're 16-1-5 on the season. But how about the team that's on the second longest winning streak in the NHL? Give the Minnesota Wild their 5th straight win over the weekend. And you want to talk about goaltending powering a winning streak. In those 10 games where they're 8-1-1, the expected goals for has favored the opposition in 5 of those 10. This is not a Minnesota Wild team that's playing a dominant style of hockey, but they are getting absolutely dominant goaltending from Jesper Wallstedt, who puts up his 3rd shutout in just 4 games, Huts.
Yeah, it's impressive. To do that at the NHL level at his age is something else. And again, Philip Gustafson's been playing a lot better than he started the season as well, right? He's 6-7-2. Yes, he's under 500 in the win column, but statistically he's playing well. He's buzzing at over 900 save percentage now. But Wallstedt just feels like he has that confidence right now. He's in a rhythm, and watching some of his clips and watching some of the games, he really manages his depth well. When I watched him in the preseason, it felt like he was chasing the game a bit much. And we've been over this before, Ty, where then all of a sudden it's not that initial save, the second save, it's where you are after. His depth and where he's at. And Minnesota is turning pucks over. They are giving up chances. There is a lot of good looks. He looks very confident. He's letting the game come to him right now. And this has been fun to watch, this little run that he's on. And now you look at that big win yesterday against the Winnipeg Jets. This is a team that just lost a couple in the row. They're going to be without Connor Hellebuck. This is a really good time for the Minnesota Wild to start stacking some wins together and give themselves a little bit of breathing room in the Central Division, because there's no lack of slowing down when you look at the Colorado Avalanche. But with the way Winnipeg's in a bit of a tailspin here, it's a good time to be a Minnesota Wild.
High danger shot attempts, 5th most high danger shot attempts against for the Minnesota Wild at 5-on-5 this year. Scoring chances against, 7th most in the NHL. Shots against, 7th most in the NHL. And yet Jesper Wallstedt and Philip Gustafsson, as you mentioned, he's starting to warm up too. They're the backbone of this Minnesota Wild team. And for Wallstedt, they've had points in all 8 of his starts this year. You saw his 6-0-2 record up on the screen. He's faced 25 or more shots in 7 of those 8 games as well. So again, it's a little bit of it's an interesting conversation, because it's like, okay, is it sustainable, right? Like, is Wallstedt going to be at this level all year? Like, probably not. He's going to cool off. But what might be the beautiful part about this goaltending tandem, Huts, is like, if Wallstedt starts to maybe trend down, does it time up with Gustafsson, who we know when he's hot, he's one of the better goalies in the NHL? Does it time up with him heating up? And it could just be a perfect storm where they can ride this goaltending to a playoff position.
Well, and that's the important thing too, right? At times you're going to have to rely on certain guys. Like we touched on earlier with the Wedgwood situation, he came in, maybe they get an injury and then you have confidence in those guys. Or if there's someone's a little bit hotter, maybe that week he gets 2 starts in a row instead of 1. I feel like it can be a very, you can ride that wave. And the fact that I do like the idea now that Gustafsson's contract is done. So there isn't that pressure where it's like, hey, we got to get Wallstedt in a couple more. He's going right now. Where if you're Philip Gustafsson, you're like, well, it's my contract year. I have more pressure on me. You almost undermine that situation. Where now I think you can just sit back and enjoy this and compete and try to help this team win, which I think in general makes this team better.
So I think you maybe just answered my question then, but it's like, does that contract extension with you and I were both critical of at the moment, saying maybe they jumped the gun a little bit. Does it make it more or less awkward as that duo? Like if you're Gustafsson, are you truly kicking your feet up? And I guess, you'd have to know his personality a little bit to answer this truly, but like, are you sitting there going, why'd you pay me if you have this kid coming and you want to give the kid starts? Or are you sitting there going, hey, I got my money. Now all I care about is the team winning?
Yeah, I think, well, you always are trying to prioritize a team winning. I guess from the forefront, if you're a good person, if you're a good teammate, you're going to put what's best for the team, right? And try to do that. And at the end of the day, if you're a goalie, realistically, you're just competing against yourself. Because if the other guy plays like crap and you aren't taking care of your business, it's not going to matter. So I think this benefits the team. The fact that there is no pressure and there is no little thoughts in the back of Gustafsson's head being like, well, I'm not getting the crease right now. This is killing my contract. Where this is out of the way, work together, promote each other, and then you get the best results. And we've seen that over time. Guys that win and go to the distance in the playoffs, those guys continually get contracts. How many times do we see names just reused and bounced around, even when their expiry date is gone? You get another contract because you've been a winner, because you've been on winning teams. That's what teams want. They want guys like that have won cups or been in good situations in a locker room around younger players. So I think they can embrace that here and really help each other platoon this out this year.
All right, one more thing to get to before our big segment. The Daily Faceoff Roundtable question that was up this weekend at dailyfaceoff.com was based around the question of who are the players or teams that have you believing in them more than you did at the start of the season? And I think there were a couple of really interesting answers I wanted to throw out there. First up, how about what Jack Roslovic is doing for the Edmonton Oilers here? 7 even-strength goals. Huts, that's tied for the team lead. He's scored more even-strength goals so far this season than Leon Draisaitl. He has just as many as Connor McDavid. He has 2 game winners. He's been contributing on the power play. He's been playing center at some points as well. $1.5 million signed on opening night. It's a great piece of work by Stan Bowman. And as the Oilers kind of, sit there in their mediocre start to the year, as they always do, it's interesting to sit here and be like, man, if they didn't have Jack Roslovic, this might have been a disastrous start. Like he borderline maybe saving their season. He scored twice this weekend in their win over Florida.
You know what I like about this is the fact that they've tried different situations. I was talking to Patty before we came on air about, I felt Jeff Skinner might have been this fit last year, right? Like a guy that knows how to score. He goes to the net, and it just never really worked in that dynamic where Jack Roslovic, he's fitting in so well with Leon. It's so important. Again, he's a shooter. He's always prepared to release the puck. And I think with Leon, you have to be ready because at any point the puck is going to end up on your stick. This is a good fit. What I do love about this is the fact that he bet on himself, right? Like we were sitting here being like, man, he had some good offers, right? That he didn't take. And all of a sudden where it's at now. Now it's like he holds all the cards. This could be a deal that I see maybe getting done before the season's over if they can fit it and spread it out because he fits with Leon. Then you have a little bit more of a threat where it doesn't have to go right back to Hyman, McDavid, and Draisaitl together right away. And every time when you're behind in a game, you have another guy that can put pucks in the back of the net 5-on-5.
I mean, you mentioned the better offers. Huts, he got offered, I think it was a 3x4 or something in that range from the Edmonton Oilers on July 1st. They wanted him on July 1. He thought he'd get more money or find a better fit elsewhere. Edmonton pivots. They sign Mangiapane. The summer goes on. And if you're Roslovic sitting there not at any team's training camp in September, you're probably like, oh my God, did I just cost myself $10 to $15 million the way I handled this free agency class or this free agency situation? Now you're sitting here going, oh my God, he might get a 5x5 from someone next summer. I mean, who knows if it could maybe be in Edmonton. You mentioned the fit. This is his 4th team in the last 3 years. Maybe he will just go, you know what? I'll take a little bit less money here because I know I'm fitting well in this situation. Maybe he's finally found a permanent home. But Jack Roslovic's been a great story for the Oilers. And one other great story I want to touch on, and we've hit on him a little bit throughout the season, but it's Spencer Knight. Of all the goalies in the NHL who've played at least 10 games, and there are 36 of them, he has the best save percentage in the league. Huts, are we good to use the word elite when it comes to Spencer Knight now?
Yeah, I think we've been able to use the word elite for a lot of years. It was more, he had his off-ice struggles. I look back to that series, Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning, where he came in for the Florida Panthers, and he was really good in a few of those games. That was when Tampa Bay was just chewing up and spitting everybody out. But what I love about Spencer Knight is how calm he is and compact. He takes away the bottom of the net so well. And he's only 24 years old. This is still a youngster. Like, he still has so much growth. What I did like the other night, though, I touched on it earlier, the Kraken game. They have a 2-0 lead. and they give up 3 in the third period and lose it. Panger talked about it a little bit. So going into yesterday's game, after a big loss, you go back to your starter and talk about answering the call. You're playing the Colorado Avalanche. He gives up 1 goal, but he was so good in that game. And I think that's something where you see the maturity, right? Like recognizing the situation, being good when you have to. I think he's a name that USA Hockey is really going to have a tough decision figuring out who their number 3 is for the Olympics.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, because based on the numbers, I mean, there might be a conversation about Spencer Knight being more than the number 3 for Team USA when you look at the way this season is shaken out. Let's keep things rolling. Let's get to our big segment for the day. Matt Barnaby is brought to you by Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins, if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your go-to game day dip. Before, during, or after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Always a pleasure to welcome Matt Barnaby to the show, former NHLer. You can find some of his work this season on the daily Faceoff fantasy and betting YouTube. Matt, last time we had you on, we did our prop bet fantasy draft to kick off the season. And Pat, I think you have the board that kind of shows our picks here. It's a good time for us to review how we all kind of did. And listen, the season is far from over. But Matt, I want to start with like your first overall pick, Vasilevsky, more wins than Ottinger. That's looking good. How do you feel about your second overall pick? What's your read on the Habs?
Yeah, listen, I wasn't confident about a month ago with the Habs start, the way that they took off. I mean, they were incredible, young guys scoring from everywhere. Lane Hutson continued to improve and getting great goaltending. Since November's kicked around, this is a different team. So, you look, they've lost 7 of the last 8 before winning against Toronto 5-2 the other night. Was not confident, but Montreal, I think, is a borderline playoff team, exactly where they are. They weren't as good as they were in October. That's not the Montreal Canadiens, and they aren't as bad as they've been in November. So it's going to come down to the end. I think they're just a borderline playoff team, whether they squeak in or they squeak out. I'm still not fully confident that they don't make it, but certainly not confident that they do make it.
Well, and the East is just so mushy right now. Like there's so many teams who are all between that 24 to 26 point range. So it really could be a bit of a coin flip for a lot of those clubs. Huts, I'll turn the pressure on to you now as we look at your 5. Is there one that you're feeling good about through 6 weeks of the season?
Well, there's one I'm feeling real bad about, but I'm sure we can get to that later. Thanks, Linus Allmark. But the one that I feel really good about right now, honestly, is the Tage Thompson one. I think the pace that he's scoring at right now, he's on pace for 45 goals. He's got 12 goals right now. And I just think this Buffalo Sabres team is a team that is going to weigh heavily on their superstars, right? They are in this must-win situation already. There's desperate hockey. He's going to be put in every good situation to succeed. He is a star. He finds the back of the net. And he's always on the ice 6-on-5 with empty netters, too. So I think that is something always taken effect when guys are scoring extra goals. He had an empty netter yesterday in their win. So he's a guy for me. He scores at will. So I look for him to continually score. I don't think the Buffalo Sabres are in the clear here just because they won a couple games and the Leafs are last in the Eastern Conference, which I enjoy to bring up every chance I get. But Tage Thompson, I think he gets to where he needs to be, beating 39.5.
Matt, that's obviously a team you follow, pretty closely in Buffalo. What have you made of their first 6 weeks of the year?
Yeah, listen, they were getting unbelievable goaltending at the start of the year, like unbelievable. Alex Lyon, I think through the first 8 games had like a 924 save percentage, and they were losing because they couldn't score goals. Now they've kind of flipped that switch a bit and have been able to put up some goals, winning the last 2, beating Carolina, and then putting up a 9 spot the game before. So if they get consistent goaltending, listen, they could go on a run, but are they good enough to consistently get 924 save percentage? No. Are they consistently good enough to put up 4 or 5 goals a game? No. I'm not a believer in the Buffalo Sabres. I don't think they make the playoffs, and they have to jump a lot of teams. I know it's early on in the season, but we're getting near that American Thanksgiving, and we know what that number is. Is Buffalo able to, because one of these teams is going to have to rifle off 7 out of 8 at some point, and I just don't think the Buffalo Sabres are good enough to do that.
That's fair. If you head out to the West, a team that has taken the leap forward that obviously Buffalo has struggled for so many years to take, that's the Anaheim Ducks. And that was my first overall pick, was the Ducks over 82.5. Matt, this is a Ducks team that's, I mean, they're on pace for over 100 points this season. Are you a believer? Like we did our segment before you popped on of like teams who have changed our opinions of them or players who have changed our opinions of them. Have the Ducks, do they have you believing in them through a month?
Yeah, listen, through 7 or 8 games, you have to be like, "Whoa, cowboy, let's see what they're like." Once you start getting to the 20 game mark and you start showing consistency for that long a time, you got to start to believe they're a fun team to watch. I mean, you watch them on any given night, and you can see 5, 6 goals, young kids that are hungry for ice time, and there's only so much ice time to go around for these young kids, so they're all fighting just to get more and more involved. But a great team to watch. And listen, you might catch this before Christmas, which don't hit the cash out button because they're certainly going over. They're certainly a playoff team, and they're a fun, young, exciting team.
Huts, we haven't probably talked all that much about them, but are you buying on the Ducks?
I like them. I guess the side of it I like is they're scoring lots of goals. My only concern is how they defend. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time with a younger group, Joel Quenneville coming in, getting to know these guys. But they have the goalie. Lucas Dostal is so good. This guy is a legit star in this league, and you're going to hear his name for the forthcoming future. But once they start to defend a little better, I think there's more sustainability in their game. I don't think they're there to, knock anyone's doors off yet, but they're a fun team. They score, they start defending better. They're going to be a threat in that Western Conference for a lot of years to come.
All right, Matt, one more team I wanted to touch on with you. It was the team you took with your 5th pick, the New York Rangers. And, I think a lot of people were maybe hoping that out of the gates, like the Mike Sullivan bump and JT Miller taking over the leadership there would like really jolt them and give them a charge. But it hasn't gone that way. They have just 22 points in 23 games. Do you think this is a team that as the year goes on, like Mike Sullivan's system and his impact, once he gets things maybe a bit more implemented, like could this Rangers team be a team that at some point wins 7 or 8 in a row and pulls themselves back into this? Or are you worried about the Rangers?
I'm not worried about the Rangers yet. Listen, New York's a tough place to play in when you go to Madison Square Garden, and they are 1-7-1 at home. They are my pick tonight at -140 to win that game tonight. But listen, now they're playing an awful team as well. So, but that's going to change. Madison Square Garden is a tough place to play in for opposing teams, and to be 1-7-1 is dumbfounding. Now, in those games, they could not score at Madison Square Garden. And contrary, they've been great on the road, something that you wouldn't think. So, yeah, I believe that this team will turn it around. They're not going over my point total. That one is long gone. There's no chance they are getting there, but they are one of those teams that could put together a stretch. Can they consistently score goals? It's different than last year. Last year, they were probably the worst defensive team that I saw consistently throughout the year. This year, they just haven't been able to score at home. That's got to change at some point with the talent that they have in that room.
All right, Hutz, I'm going to put you on the spot for one more here. Looking at my picks, looking at Matt Barnaby's picks, if you could steal one, if we gave you that option, which one of those 10 would you steal? Which one do you view as the biggest lock here at the 6-week mark?
Honestly, I think right now if I could steal, like I love the Ducks one. We went over that, so I'll try to go something we haven't talked about. I think I would steal the Connor Bedard one over 80 points. I feel like this is a no-brainer. The way that he is producing and the situation he's in, the confidence, the way the Hawks are playing. Give me Connor Bedard and I will give you Linus Allmark and a Tim's gift card, buddy.
Hey, you know what? I don't mind a little bagel belt and a large regular coffee on my drive to work. Matt, are you buying on Bedard to start the year? Like, is this a guy who it's not just a heater? He's in superstar territory?
No, he is legit, and it takes a little time and to surround guys with better players. It's always tough being a number one overall pick and coming in. And his point totals right from the start. He's had his ups and downs, but he's superstar territory. Listen, you talked about guys earlier before I came on looking to shoot, and Jack Roslovic, and always have that shoot first mentality. I don't know if there's a better catch and release player in the league than Connor Bedard. I mean, he can grab it from the outside, pull it to the inside. He can push it outside and fire it. And it's an absolute bullet off his stick. So Connor Bedard, super territory. He'll challenge for the Canadian Olympic team with the way he's playing. Him and Celebrini. It's just whether they decide if that's the way that they're going to go from Team Canada's point of view. But he's certainly there. And on the next Olympics, you can pencil him in right now. He's there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. Like, even if him and Celebrini don't go this time around, 4 years from now, we're going to be talking about two
Yeah.
guys who are probably pretty important players on that Canadian team. Matt, as always, appreciate your time. It was fun to look back, and we'll probably do this again in another 6 weeks or so, or maybe even sooner. So we'll see you then.
Cheers, guys. Keep up the good work.
Big shout out to Matt for popping on the show here today. Let's get to our hashtag askDFO questions here, Huts. The first one I want to start with, it is pretty jarring when you go to the NHL website and you look at who the penalty minutes leader is in the NHL, because it's Mikko Rantanen. He was given his second game misconduct in just 3 games for boarding. He hit Flames forward Matt Coronado from behind, and I didn't actually know that this was a rule. If you have 2 game misconducts within 41 games, it triggers an automatic 1-game suspension. Rantanen had 2 within 3 games. He wasn't even close to timing out. He might get another one by the time his 41 games are up. But the NHL saying today it's just going to be the automatic 1-game suspension and nothing more than that for Rantanen. But I mean, the askDFO that came in, it's like, how did Rantanen get or become such a goon? I'm honestly surprised. The Coronado hit was really bad. The one on Romanov, and it sucks to hear Romanov's going to be out 5 to 6 months now for the New York Islanders. But the one on Coronado, I thought was worse. Like, that probably could have been 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, we broke down the Romanov one last week. And again, for our viewers that weren't there last week, I didn't hate it. I think Mayfield takes his feet out. It's kind of a protecting yourself play. But this Coronado one that we're going to queue up here, Patty's got, it is horrible. This is a bad play. This is one where these are like career-ending kind of hits. He's coming in with speed. Every player in the league enters the zone, dumps the puck in, delays. This is a common play along the boards where you can rub a guy out here, but Rantanen is a big man. And I think because of his game isn't overly physical at times, right? He is a goal scorer. He doesn't need to play the style of hockey, but he is a tank. And this is a dangerous, dangerous hit. This is one where you could see a guy, and it's a play for me, Ty, as you watch it here again. You can see it developing. You can see what his intentions are. He has the pockets going in deep. He's getting pressured by the D-man, and he just runs him through the boards from behind. A dangerous, dangerous play, ones we don't need in the game.
It's so and again, when you see that one angle of him skating in, he's looking at those white letters on the back of his jersey for 7 full strides and still decides to hammer them right into the dasher. I don't understand, the league, and this goes back to when you were in the league, they cracked down on headshots, right? They started suspending, Rafi Torres was getting 41 games at a time, and they kind of put their foot down and said, guys are getting concussions. We need to stop this. And the fact that the hits from behind are continuing to be a problem, but the league almost seems to want to wait until someone does suffer a career-ending injury to take it seriously. This one very, very easily, watching it again right now, it's just how do you not deem that as more than a 1-game suspension for Mikko Rantanen? It's crazy dirty from Rantanen. So again, don't love to see it. Can't believe he's getting away with it again to some extent outside of the 1-game suspension. Let's go to another piece of news we got over the weekend, though. Elliot Friedman on his Saturday headline segment on Hockey Night in Canada, reporting that Andrei Svechnikov reportedly telling the Hurricanes he'd be open to a trade. This comes amidst his ice time falling once again this year. 2nd straight year, his minutes per game have seen a dip. He was playing 3rd, 4th line minutes earlier this year for Rod Brind'Amour. He signed for 3 more seasons at $7.7 million. He's a guy who, when he's on, he's a 30-goal guy. When he's off, he maybe just doesn't work in Rod Brind'Amour's system. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's the way I would look at it too. This is a player that is very skilled, but at times they need to be coddled, right? He needs to be in a situation where he's going to succeed, where he's going to play well. And then when things don't go his way, he's playing for a head coach that has a lot of non-negotiables in his decisions that he makes about running a game. And if you aren't going to work, if you aren't going to forecheck, if you aren't going to be part of the system that works as a whole, you kind of really don't fit in there. And that's the vibe that I get when you think about Svechnikov and how he plays. He wants his cookies. He wants to be a perimeter guy and be on the power play and play with skill. Yes, but you also got to buy into what his team culture is and what he wants to run. So I think that's the effect you're getting now. He's got his deal. He's got his money. Now he just wants to play the way he wants to play. And I think that's where you're going to get 2 immovable forces. Because I'll tell you one thing, Rod Brind'Amour is not going to bend over backwards to suit what he needs as a player. He's going to do what's best for the team. And I think this might be a case where they butt heads, and we see this till the near future, till maybe he's moved out or he learns to buy in a bit more.
Last piece of news I want to get to, and that is out in Montreal. Alex Tessier kind of continuing what's become an interesting trend over the last couple of years. If people remember back last year, Brandon Saad with the St. Louis Blues had a handful of $1 million left on his deal, put his hand up, said, I'm not playing here. I want to go somewhere where I'm wanted. They terminated his deal. He gave up the money. He signed a league min contract in Vegas, and he played with the Golden Knights for the rest of the year. We saw David Kampf earlier this season do a similar thing with the Leafs, where he said, hey, if you guys are just going to bury me in the American League, let me out of my contract. I'll go sign somewhere else for cheap, somewhere where I can play in the NHL. And Alexander Tessier did the exact same thing. The 26-year-old forward forgoes it was $2 million on his deal this season. Who knows how much of it exactly was left, but he signs for $1 million with the Montreal Canadiens. He takes a 50% pay cut to stay in the NHL. What do you make of this trend of guys kind of doing that?
I guess it's one of those things. Maybe you take the hit now and then you get the money later, but there is always that fact that, there's a reason why you're not playing too. I know the grass isn't always greener, and at the end of the day, you want guys to play. But I think when you look at him in 2021 with the Columbus Blue Jackets in 36 games, he had 11 goals and 9 assists in 36 games. So he can produce, he can get there. Is this an opportunity where there's only so many seats at the table when you talk about offensive demon that create? So at times you got to bet on yourself, but at times you got to look in the mirror and be like, I am who I am. I need to, maybe change my game or make adjustments, because teams want guys that are going to help them win. And usually they're not too far off. And you're seeing it happen a lot. So good for him. I guess I hope it works out. But that being said, he's going to have a long road back here. I think once you get that label, it's tricky.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's get to our daily bets for Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And no one's loving Jesper Wallstedt more than Pat Puff. Big reason why you were able to cash that under on the weekend.
Yeah, I was getting a little scared when Minnesota put up 4 real quick. But they just kind of shut it down there, played their classic defense-style game, and they closed it out for me. Huts, you got blown out a little bit in yours, yeah?
Mine was brutal. We had Darren Pang on, and I was by. I didn't know the beer saber was being introduced. I wish I would have done a little more homework. Like, you got to know if there's a beer saber being introduced in Western New York, the Sabres were going to just dominate. So we're back to the drawing board today, Ty. Hopefully we can get hot here, my man.
Yeah, we and me included in that one. I am ice cold right now. I go 0 for last week because Kempe couldn't get the job done. Back to the well tonight, though. Looking for a positive week. I got 2 players who shot props I'm eyeing up. Arseny Gritsuk from the New Jersey Devils and Connor McMichael. 5 in a row for Gritsuk in New Jersey. 4 of 5 for McMichael. Both these guys on the season hitting right around that 70-75% mark. So 2 pretty good numbers. You play them together, it's plus 146. Pat, what do you got?
Yeah, you guys did some of your believers earlier today. One of mine is Zach Werenski playing great again this season. He's got 9 points in his last 5. He's got 24 shots in his last 5 games, averaging 3.8 every single game, point per game kind of player. And he's got 3 shots in 16 of 22 games so far this year. So to get a point tonight and 3 shots at plus 120, I like it. If you want to jump it up to 4 shots, it's plus 240. So that's an option as well. What about you, Huts?
I went with the homer parlay here. We're taking all home teams tonight, all favorites. We're taking the Washington Capitals against the Columbus Blue Jackets, taking the Tampa Bay money line against the Philadelphia Flyers, and we're taking the New York Rangers at home against the St. Louis Blues. And if the Rangers get shut out tomorrow, I might just take this segment off, Ty.
That's just going to take the loss. I'm not even making the pick. Let's wrap up the show with a little bit of garbage time. How about this story? And it's one we talked about a lot last year around the draft, but Mason West, the 29th overall pick of the Chicago Blackhawks from last season, he told the Hawks from the get-go when they were considering drafting him, I am going back to finish off my high school football career. He's the quarterback for Edina High. And over the weekend, they did the job. They finished it off. He brought a state championship to the school. A pretty wild story of a guy, again, first-round pick in the NHL who tells an NHL team, no, I'm finishing off my high school football career. But I would imagine that's even something, I don't know, maybe the Hawks liked about him, that he was like, no, I promised my teammates I'd be back and I'm going to do it. But a pretty neat story, Hutton. And it gets even more interesting when you go look at some of the past quarterbacks of this high school from about 07 to 09, I think it was. Anders Lee of the New York Islanders was also a quarterback for them, which is just wild to look at.
Pretty impressive, right? Obviously a phenomenal athlete. And I do believe teams love that. I remember when I first signed my first NHL contract with the San Jose Sharks, their head scout, Tim Burke, who was like a famous guy, I met him for a cup of coffee. I was going to school at UMass Lowell, and I had like a raspberry on my leg from playing softball. And he asked me right away, he's like, "What's that from?" I'm like, "Oh, I play baseball." And then he wanted to know every other sport I played and like how well versed you were, because it's important to have other skills, and you learn so much. They all mix together. So good for Mason Weston. He looks like the athlete he is. We'll be seeing his name soon in the NHL as well.
Believe he's going to Michigan State next year to play his college hockey. But for now, he was focused on throwing touchdowns, and he did a pretty good job of that. 42 points in the clinching game. All right, that is a wrap on today's edition of the show. Tomorrow, Jeff Merrick. Wednesday, Steve Peters, Dave Pagnotta later in the week as well. We are back every single weekday right here on the DFO YouTube at noon Eastern. So have a good Monday. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.